for which it stands, one nation.
Quorum call.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their presence? If so, the clerk will take the call.
25th, 2021.
Recognizing the majority leader.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Move so much be considered the reading of the journal from the previous day.
So ordered. Petitions, memorials, and other papers. Recognizing the chair of rules.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I ask for permission to take the Rules Committee off the floor to the Old House Chamber for some re-referrals.
This applies to just the members that are in the chambers. Annex does not need to come over. Messages, Senate Bill 43, the clerk will read the bill.
Senate Bill 43, Criminal Law, Law Enforcement Officers, Prohibition on Sexual Activity.
The clerk will read the message from the Senate.
Ladies and gentlemen of the House Delegates, the Senate refuses to concur in the House amendments and respectfully requests the House receive from its position. Should the House prefer a conference committee to confer the disagreeing votes of the two houses, the Senate appoints Senator Hedelman chair, Senator Bailey, and Senator Jackson. Said bill is returned herewith.
The clerk will read the message to the Senate.
Ladies and gentlemen of the Senate, the House of Delegates does not recede in the House amendments to the Senate bill and agrees to a conference committee to confer the disagreeing votes of the two houses. The Senate has appointed Senator Hedelman chair, Senator Bailey, and Senator Jackson. The House appoints Delegate Williams chair, Delegate Moon, and Delegate Griffith. Said bill is returned herewith.
Messages, Senate Bill 105. The clerk will read the bill.
Senate Bill 105, Peace Orders, Workplace Violence.
Clerk will read the message from the Senate.
Ladies and gentlemen of the Senate, the House of Delegates does not recede in the House amendments to the Senate bill and agrees to a conference committee to confer the disagreeing votes of the two houses. The Senate has appointed Senator Sidner chair, Senator Hedelman, and Senator Carter. The House appoints Delegate Atterbury chair, Senator Shetty, and Delegate Williams. Said bill is returned herewith.
The clerk will read the message to the Senate.
Ladies and gentlemen of the House Delegates, the Senate refused to concur in the House amendments and respectfully requests the House receive from its position. Should the House prefer a conference committee to confer the disagreeing votes of the two houses, the Senate appoints Delegate Sidner chair, Senator Hedelman, and Senator Carter. Said bill is returned to with.
Messages, Senate Bill 250. The clerk will read the bill.
Senate Bill 250, Criminal Law, Sexual Crimes, Fourth Degree Sexual Offense, and Spousal Defense.
The clerk will read the message from the Senate.
Ladies and gentlemen of the House of Delegates, the Senate refuses to concur in the House amendments and respectfully requests the House recede from its position. Should the House prefer a conference committee to confer the disagreeing votes of the two houses, the Senate appoints Senator Lee chair, Senator Carter, and Senator Huff. Said bill is returned herewith.
The clerk will read the message to the Senate.
Ladies and gentlemen of the Senate, the House of Delegates does not recede in the House amendments to the Senate bill and agrees to a conference committee to confer on the disagreeing votes of the two houses. The Senate has appointed Senator Lee chair, Senator Carter, and Senator Huff. The House appoints Delegate Crutchfield chair, Delegate Shetty, and Delegate Erickson. Said bill is returned herewith.
Conference Committee report. House Bill 421. The clerk will read the bill and the Conference Committee report.
House Bill 421, Income Tax Distribution, Tax Clinics for Low-Income Marylanders, Amendment Number 1.
Recognizing the floor leader.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Move so much be considered the reading of the Conference Committee report.
So ordered.
The Conference Committee recommends rejecting the Senate amendments and adopting the Conference Committee amendments to conform the bill.
The motion before the House is to adopt the Conference Committee report. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. The Conference Committee report is adopted. House Bill 421 is on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 121 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 421, having received the constitutional majority, is declared passed. Quorum call.
Madam Speaker.
Clerk will take the call. There being 134 members present, the House is still in session. Calendar of third reading, House Bills number 107. Clerk will read the first bill.
House Bill 88, Maryland Police Accountability Act of 2021, Prohibition Against Penalization for Seeking Mental Health Services.
Is on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 135 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 88, having received the constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
House Bill 238, Criminal Procedure, Expungement of Records.
Is on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 97 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 238, having received the constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read next bill.
House Bill 1017, Income Tax Credit for Venison Donation, Reporting Requirement, and Testing for Chronic Wasting Disease.
Is on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 133 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 1017, having received the constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read next. Clerk will read the calendar of third reading, House Bills number 108, first bill.
House Bill 607, Judges Retirement System, Retiree Health Benefits, Mandatory Retirement.
It's on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? Recognizing the gentleman from Cal.
Yes, Madam Speaker, I'd like to yield to the minority whip, actually, on this particular item, if I may. Thank you.
Minority Whip.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. And I don't usually rise to ask questions about bills in my committee, but I would like to ask about this, please. Floor leader. Behind me. Good morning.
Good morning, Delegate.
So did this bill have a hearing?
Yes, the bill had an original hearing in full committee and then in the subcommittee where it was amended.
This bill had a hearing, because when I pull the hearing information up on my floor system, it talks about PBMs. Epic Pharmacy weighed in, so that's not a hearing on this bill. Did this bill have a hearing?
In our subcommittee, we talked about the amending 607, which had a hearing in the full committee.
Did it get a fiscal note?
It did not get a fiscal note because the fiscal notes don't come out until after the amendments are done.
But it's a completely different bill. So thank you, Floor Leader. I would just like to say that I am very disappointed in the way this bill went down. It's not against this judge. However, this judge knew when he took an appointment what his health benefit would be, and now he's come in and asked us to change it. But more importantly, I think this body was compromised by a Rule 46 violation that was as clear, as my good friend and country lawyer said, as the nose on your face. This bill should have come in separately, gone to rules, gotten out of rules like so many bills do, gone to committee, had a full hearing, not a mini hearing in subcommittee. That's not a public hearing. That's not an opportunity for people to weigh in, the public to know what's going on, and then had a vote. So my committee, Health and Government Operations, does not operate like that. And I'm very disappointed that the rules have been broken. And I just think it makes it look like a totalitarian regime. I'm very disappointed. I'm voting against this bill on principle and not on substance.
Okay. And Chair of the committee.
Madam Speaker, the gentlewoman who spoke previously made very good points, and I have the utmost respect for her, and she's aware of that, and that does not change. That said, we have done this many times in past. This is not a first. It's just there was something that intervened where it didn't happen, and so now that seems to be the standard. But in my long history here, we have done this in the past. Beyond that, there is the old saying, don't let the perfect be the enemy of the good. In our committee, the system is that the subcommittees have very good work sessions. All the stakeholders that we know of, and in this case there wouldn't have been the right stakeholders probably, but we certainly had Ann Gothrop from pensions and whatever, retirement, I don't know. And we got the information that basically there was a mistake made, that when the judge's pension system was changed, that it did this to the pensions, but somehow the health benefits had been overlooked. And this is important. Somebody's life may depend on it. I don't know. Many people's lives may at some point depend on it. So sometimes we try to do good, and it's not easy. And could we have done it a different way? Had I been smarter, maybe we would have. Maybe we would have thought of that, and that would have been even better. But where we are today, it's a good bill. We need to pass the good bill to help good people. So I ask you to support the bill.
Madam Speaker.
Gentlelady from Baltimore County.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Good morning, everyone. Could I talk to the floor leader for a real quick minute?
Floor leader.
Thank
you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. Good morning.
Good morning.
Could you tell us how many people will the bill with this new amendment impact as of today?
So at the moment, we think that there's about one, but we know that there's the potential, for future. If we want to appoint judges who are going to be most effective, and they happen to be over 65, and they have to retire at 70, it's required, they cannot work in the system after 70, then we want them to be able to have some of the benefits. We did that in 2015 with respect to their pension benefits, but as the good chairman just said, we neglected to include the health benefits.
Okay, could we, the body, know who this one person is who we're making this bill for? Do you have the name of the person?
I do not. That's not.
That was not
this
brought
is
up in the
bill's-
subcommittee.
The bill is meant to cover any events.
Okay, thank you, Madam Floor Leader. Body, I also had a bill I put in this year for a constituent of mine who is retired and who is a teacher, gave their life to this state, to teaching in public schools, and is now unable to draw their pension because of a tiny little complicated thing where, because he's now part-time employed somewhere else, even though he's not paying into the pension system, they won't let him pull it. I sent that little bill to appropriations, and my bill never got a vote. It never got a vote, body. Is it because my person isn't a big judge, not an important person? They're just a little teacher? If we're in the business of making bills for just one person, I hope that in the future, if bills come in that help one person get their pension, we consider other bills that help one person in our state get their pensions. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Madam Speaker.
Gentleman from Calvercliffs.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. So I just want the citizens to know, for the record, the people of Maryland, that this bill came in as one entirely different bill and was struck, and a different bill was put into its place. The citizens of Maryland did not have an opportunity to weigh in because there was no public hearing. And I've already had a lot of complaints from Calvert County, from citizens who have tried to go online and tried to sign up to testify on bills, but the sign-up time is already so limited and so difficult in some cases that they haven't been able to. And I have also many citizens in Calvert County that don't have access to broadband and therefore haven't been able to weigh in. And so you got to wonder what kind of party thinks it's okay to fundamentally undermine the basic principle of democracy, which is transparency. And that's exactly what has happened with this bill. This bill completely excludes the public from any participation. Whether it's a good bill or a bad bill, it doesn't matter, because the public hasn't had that opportunity. Moreover, there are rules, and here's the rule book. And the Democrat Party is saying on this day that this rule book doesn't matter. Just look at Rule 46. Rule 46 says what it says, Madam Speaker. And so, not only are we not following the rules and honoring them, but we're not honoring our oath of office to the citizens of Maryland to let them weigh in because of the fact that there has been no transparency and the citizens in Calvert County haven't had an opportunity to weigh in on that bill. Because there was...
I want to rise and say a few words about what we're hearing on the floor today. Appropriations is part of this bill. I want to make 2 points. One, thanks to COVID, our subcommittees are public for the first time. First time ever. Our subcommittees are public. The public can see what we're doing. That wasn't true last year. It's true this year. And so this was a public meeting. That's number one. I think it's unfair to say that it wasn't public and it wasn't transparent. As a matter of fact, one of the things personally I like about the New World Order we have is that my constituents can tune in and see us and see how we vote and hear the discussion, even after the fact. Two, I think it's really important because we have in the Appropriations Committee an oversight committee of pensions. And we rely very heavily on a great staff in our retirement system who, by the way, when consulted, said this was a needed change, an oversight. And it may help one today, but it's going to help many in the future. And you know, needed changes come about when the first person steps up and says there's a problem. So this is the first person that we know about that has stepped up and said there's a problem, there's an oversight. Madam Speaker, if you don't mind, I'd like to ask the gentlelady from Baltimore County to yield for a question.
The gentlelady yield.
Yes, Madam Speaker.
Okay.
You mentioned a bill of yours. Do you have a cross-file for that bill? Is there a cross-file?
I believe that Senator Jennings may have cross-filed it.
Do you realize it's on the floor for us to vote on today?
It moved in the Senate, I heard, but I didn't move in the
It's
House.
here for us to vote on today. So you too will get your wishes.
Thank you. I
And your
appreciate
first step towards justice for your constituent.
Thank you. I
Thank
wish it
you
had
very
moved on the
much.
House side as well.
Madam Speaker,
Gentlelady from Carroll.
thank you. And I don't ever stand on my own committee. I want to just express my frustration. I literally went to bed last night and said I cannot believe our committee that I'm so proud to serve on did something like this. We to this day do not even know who put the amendment in. I mean, you start with a bill with a sponsor, had a name on it, had a subject, we had a full hearing. And all of a sudden you come in, I'm on the subcommittee. It's like the whole bill has changed with an amendment by the committee. Well, who brought the amendment? Who's behind the amendment? Who asked us for the amendment? And it doesn't matter whether it's good or bad. And there is no transparency because I'm on the committee and didn't even know what was going on. So I just suggest in the future, and it's not about this particular bill, but in the future, this is not transparent. It's not transparent to the very people that sit on the subcommittee. And we're allowed to ask one question. And it's like, I don't even know what we're talking about here. Who does it affect? What's the fiscal impact? It affects people into the future, not just this one person. Who requested it? So I'm just really disappointed. I'm glad this session is ending because this is just, to me, there are no rules. When we do stuff like this, why even have a rule book? You know, when it's us doing it, oh, you go to the letter of the rule. But if somebody wants something, don't ask me what's behind this and what's so important that it couldn't have been done next year or gone to rules and put in a new bill. You can put a bill through in one day. There would have been some transparency, and I'm really disappointed. And I'm really sorry, Madam Chair. We run a great committee. I'm proud of the product that we have. We always have debate back and forth, but this was railroaded through. And again, I don't even know who's behind it, who asked for it. Thank you, Madam Chair. I'll be voting against the bill.
Majority Leader.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I appreciate the concerns of the minority, and like the chair of the Health and Government Operations Committee, I hear them. I think we have a disagreement about the application of this rule. I do want to warn against some of the rhetoric here, because one of the things I deeply value about this body, and I think the HGO committee exemplifies this better than any other committee in the House, is the extent to which we seek to find comity. C-O-M-I-T-Y. The extent to which we seek to work together. We've all witnessed, over the last few years, a rising tide of vicious partisanship in this country. And I believe, for one, that it does not serve the people of this state or the people of the United States very well. Now, we heard comments earlier, similar to comments we've heard at various times throughout session, launching partisan attacks. And they are wholly unnecessary. We can have a debate about your opinions on the fairness or unfairness of the application of rules. We can discuss them. But this is not totalitarianism. It's a disagreement. It's a disagreement. And we can disagree. We can have different points of view and not be angry at each other or insult each other. And the argument was made, well, there wasn't an adequate hearing. But we had an amendment yesterday, like amendments we have all the time on this floor that didn't have a hearing. We had an amendment yesterday that would have cut hundreds of millions of dollars from local governments. It didn't get a hearing. So our process, all do our best to work together. This is just a disagreement about the application of the rules. And I hear the members of the minority, and I appreciate your point of view. I respectfully disagree in this one instance, but I hope that throughout this session, in contrast to the type of politics we've seen too often in this country, continues through the last remaining days of this session. We have been, in my opinion, showing America how reasoned debate should be done. And I hope that continues. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Recognizing the minority whip.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. And I appreciate that from my good friend, the majority leader, but I just couldn't let that go. I brag often at home, on the radio, on TV, how well we get along. And we aren't Washington. And we, 35 miles down the road, they can't get along, and we do. And we are personally fond of each other. Almost every one of you are fond of almost everyone. But, you know, we like each other, and we enjoy having a beer together, and we enjoy having a meal together, and that's important. But my First Amendment rights will not be squashed. And I stand by, I said Banana Republic last night, but I thought that sounded too fun, like a Cuba Libre or a pina colada. And that's not what's going on here. Rule 46 is clear. It says, by the use of that you may not, by the use of a phrase, quote, strike out everything after the word a bill, or by any other amendment or series of amendments with the effect of changing the original purpose of the bill. The original bill was a PBM bill. The bill we have is a judge's retirement bill. A sixth grader would look at that and tell you that this violates this rule. So while you may not like my verbiage, I'm very disappointed because we don't operate like this, or we haven't, but it looks like we're going back to the bad old days. Thank you.
Is there any further debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker?
The chairwoman.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. To explain my vote, I'm glad to be able to help someone today, others in future, a judge, a teacher. Many people will be helping, and I'm voting to help both of them, all of them.
Madam Speaker.
Gentlelady from Hartford and the Annex. To explain her vote.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. To explain my vote, I voted no on this bill for two reasons. One, there was a bill by Delegate Jackson, 1335, and it was filed in 2020, and it was 1230. His bill did not get out of rules, but 1230 in 2020 did. And it had a very high fiscal note, and it dealt with a lot of the retirees that lost their health care benefits or subsidies when they retired from the state. It was going to cost $4.8 billion. Well, while this bill was still in play in the Rules Committee, I got all kinds of calls from people all over the state, and I said it's not going to get out of rules. And but yet these folks came down here, and of course they couldn't lobby us directly, but they drove around, they were honking their horns, they went around the state circle, they went around the House complex, they probably went around the Senate complex. It was all coordinated with Capitol Police. But to do this for one individual, I don't care how needy it is, a lawyer, a retired lawyer, judge, has one of the best retirement systems available, and say, well, they need help with their medical, and then to just ignore these other folks that are, in the thousands, and say we're not going to even consider it, it's not good, and it looks bad, and it looks like crony capitalism. It looks like there's winners and losers, and we just picked a big one winner, and a lot of our seniors are big losers. Our former state employees that worked very, very hard and did the greatest that they could for the state of Maryland. And this is really a slap in their face. Thank you, Madam
The gentlelady, you're explaining your vote? She just walks out.
Madam Speaker, to explain my
Gentleman
vote.
from Western Maryland.
I don't know much about
To
why.
explain your vote.
To explain my vote. I voted against this for one reason and one reason only, because I hope that everyone remembers that this is a word called precedent. It's not, I didn't vote against it because I have any particular bent about a judge or an anomaly in the law or why or how it came in. I have far too much respect for my friend from Howard County, the chair of the committee, and she gave a very reasoned and reasonable speech and explanation of how and why she chose to use this vehicle for this piece of legislation. But I hope that we all remember this. We said last night, this is a precedent. You can strike an entire bill, all the language except 2 or 3 or 5 words, and substitute something else as an amendment as long as it is somehow tangentially related, allegedly, to the same subject matter. If we're going to have that precedent, live with that precedent for all members of this body forever, not just for the favored, not just for the most powerful. Everyone gets the value and the benefit of that precedent going forward. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Clerk will take the call. There being 87 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 607, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
House Bill 761, Election Law, Post-Election Procedures.
Is on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 137 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 761, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Report of the Committee on Appropriations, report number 24. The clerk will read the first bill.
Senate Bill 97, Purple Line Marketing Act. Favorable amendments. Amendment number 1.
Recognizing the subcommittee chair.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I'm hesitant to amend this bill, but move so much be the reading of the amendments.
So ordered.
Amendment 1 is technical. Amendment 2 changes the report due date to October 2023 or 12 months preceding the opening of the Purple Line, whichever is later. Move the amendments.
Question for the House is the adoption of the amendments. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. The amendments have been adopted. Question now is adoption of the favorable report as amendment amendments to the bill to its title. Hearing none, the bill is ordered past the third reading. Clerk, read next bill.
Senate Bill 249, Higher Education, Senatorial Scholarships, Program Accreditation. Favorable.
Question for the House is the adoption of the favorable report. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. The favorable report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered past the third reading. Clerk, read next bill.
Senate Bill 308, Higher Education, Maryland Community College Promise Scholarship. Eligibility. Favorable.
Question for the House is the adoption of the favorable report. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. Favorable report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered passed for third reading. Clerk, read next bill.
Senate Bill 630, Education, Adult High School Pilot Program Funding and Grants. Favorable.
Question for the House is the adoption of the favorable report. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. Favorable report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill or to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered past the third reading. Clerk, read next bill.
Senate Bill 732, Economic Development, Maryland Innovation Initiative University Partnership Pilot Program Establishment. Favorable.
Question for the House is the adoption of the favorable report. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. Favorable report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill or to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered past the third reading. Clerk, read next bill.
Senate Bill 901, Public Safety, Emergency Management, Resilient Maryland Revolving Loan Fund. Favorable.
Question for the House is the adoption of the favorable report. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. Favorable report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill or to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered past the third reading. Report of the Committee on Economic Matters. Report number 46. The clerk will read the bill.
Senate Bill 490, Anne Arundel County Board of License Commissioners, Chief Inspector. Favorable.
Question for the House is the adoption of the favorable report. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no.
Madam
The
Speaker.
ayes have it. The favorable report is adopted. Recognizing gentleman from Anne Arundel.
Thank you. Is it possible to hold, I know it's a committee report, but is it possible to hold this for purpose of amendments? Special order?
You can amend on third reader.
So I can't hold it now? Or special order
You
it?
can amend the bill on third reading. It's on second right now, so you can amend it.
Okay, thank you, Madam Speaker.
All right. The bill has been special ordered until the appropriate time, I guess next session or whatever.
No, order printed for third reading.
What's he doing? Oh.
Thank you, Madam
Okay,
Speaker, for
printed
accepting the
no,
special
no, no,
order.
no, no, no. Ignore that. Ignore that. Don't take advantage of it. Ignore it. The bill, Senate Bill 490 has been ordered past the third reading. Gentlemen, you can do your amendment when it becomes, okay? So I suggest you work on it. Report of the Committee on Environment and Transportation, report number 44. Clerk will read the first bill.
Household 943, Community Development Administration, Live Near Your School Program Establishment. Favor the amendments. Amendment number 1.
Madam Speaker.
Recognizing the subcommittee chair.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Move so much be the reading of the amendment.
So ordered.
Amendment number 1 is technical. Amendment number 2 authorizes instead of requires the Community Development Administration to administer the programs. It also authorizes the use of available funding resources, program oversight, marketing, the loan distribution of home buyer assistance program, and alters the definition of current student and recent graduate under the home buyer assistance program. And amendment number 3 sunsets the provision after a period of 3 years. Move the amendments, Madam
Question
Speaker.
for the House is the adoption of the amendments. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. The amendments have been adopted. Question, how is the adoption of the favorable report as amended? All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. Favorable report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill or to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered printed for third reading. Clerk, read next bill.
Senate Bill 4, Public Ethics, Officials and Employees, Acceptance of Gifts and Prohibited Retaliation. Favorable.
Question for the House is the adoption of the favorable report. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. Favorable report is adopted. Recognizing gentle lady from Baltimore, Minority Leader from Baltimore County.
Thank you so much, Madam Speaker. Good morning.
Minority Leader.
Are you floor leader?
I just need to be recognized.
Recognizing the floor leader.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Can you tell us, I pulled up the reprint. I'm not sure what it does now. How did you amend the bill and what does it do, please?
Yes, so we did not amend the bill. The Senate amended the bill before it came to us. And the bill now does what HB 363 did on its way out, which is to close a loophole in our ethics law to make sure there's no retaliation against an individual for reporting or participating in an investigation. And in addition, as before, now generally prohibits an official or an employee from accepting a gift from an entity that is in an association or any entity acting on behalf of an association that is engaged only in representing counties or municipal organizations.
So MACO, tell me what that means.
MACO and MML are now included in the gift prohibitions, just like every other association.
So they cannot give or they cannot receive?
They cannot give us gifts, just like MABE and the Maryland Association of Community Colleges and every other association cannot give us gifts, except for there are some exceptions to that.
Right.
Now we will also be including MACO and MML in those prohibitions as well.
Okay. And was there any opposition to the bill?
I believe MML opposed to the bill.
Okay. That's interesting. All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there any further debate? Hearing none, the bill is ordered past the third reading. Clerk, read next bill.
Senate Bill 116, Department of the Environment, Office of Recycling Market Development. Favorable.
Question for the House is the adoption of the favorable report. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. Favorable report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill or to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered passed to third reading. Clerk will read next bill.
Senate Bill 401, Landlord-Tenant Non-Renewal of Lease Notice Requirements. Favorable amendments. Amendment number 1.
Madam Speaker.
Recognizing the subcommittee.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Move so much to be reading of the amendment.
So ordered.
The amendment provides for the application of an to docket under 7-105 of the real property article and it makes conforming changes. Move the amendments, Madam Speaker.
Question for the House is the adoption of the amendment. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. Amendment is adopted. Recognizing the gentleman from Talbot in the annex.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Could the floor leader rise for a question?
Yes.
I'm just...
Reflect to what takes place when there is order to docket in a foreclosure procedure. And the amendment just gives the landlord a certain amount of time to send notice to the tenant, if there's a tenant in the home, so that the landlord can then go through the foreclosure process after they have received the notice, the order to docket from the circuit court.
So this bill is a very narrow bill, it sounds like. So if a property owner is going through a foreclosure, they have to notify the tenant? Is that how
there are also additional provisions in the bill.
That was the amendment. The amendment adds that. Is that correct?
Say it again?
The amendment changes the bill and includes that. Is that what you're saying?
That is correct.
I see. This is on second reader. I'm sorry, I'm just trying to catch this. Is that right? So if I want to do an amendment?
On third reading, you can.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Question now is adoption of the favorable report as amended. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. Favorable report is adopted. No further debate. The bill is ordered passed for third reading. Clerk, read next bill.
Senate Bill 637, Community Development Administration Live Near Your School Program Establishment. Favorable.
Question for the House is the adoption of the favorable report. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. Favorable report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill or to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered passed to third reading. Clerk, read next bill.
Senate Bill 673, Department of Agriculture Urban Agricultural Grant Program. Favor the amendments. Amendment number 1.
Recognizing the floor leader.
Good morning. Be so much considered the reading of the amendment.
So ordered.
As amended, this bill establishes an urban agriculture grant program within the Maryland Department of Agriculture and an urban agriculture grant fund to support the program. The amendment makes technical corrections to the references in the bill. Move the amendment.
Question for the House is the adoption of the amendment. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. Amendments have been adopted. Question now is adoption of the favorable report as amended. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. Favorable report is adopted. Are there any additional amendments to the bill or to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered passed to third reading. Clerk, read next bill.
Senate Bill 674, Environment Commission on Environmental Justice and Sustainable Communities Reform. Favorable amendments. Amendment number 1.
Recognizing the floor leader.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Be so much consider the reading of the amendment.
So ordered.
As amended, this bill is identical to HB 1207 as passed by the Senate. The bill makes several changes to the Commission on the Environmental Justice and Sustainable Communities Commission. The bill, 1, alters the composition of the commission and provisions governing the appointment of the members and the designation of the chair, requires that to the extent practical, the membership must reflect the racial, gender, ethnic, and I'm sorry, my glasses are fogging up. Let's just take them off. Geographic diversity of the state is specified the commission to meet at least 6 times per year and establishes meeting requirements as specified, and 5, alters and expands the required meetings and duties of the commission. Move the amendments, please.
Question for the House is the adoption of the amendments. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. Amendments have been adopted. Question now is the adoption of the favorable report as amended. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. The favorable report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill or to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered passed to third reading. The Clerk will read next bill.
Senate Bill 888, Anne Arundel County Speed Monitoring Systems, Maryland Route 175, Jessup Road. Favor the amendments. Amendment number 1.
Recognizing the floor leader.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Move so much be considered the reading of the amendments.
So ordered.
Amendment number 1 requires the fines collected after costs to be remitted to SHA to be used solely to assist in establishing speed reduction measures and making roadway and pedestrian safety improvements in the area. Amendment number 2 requires certain signage and a real-time display of a driver's traveling speed. And number 3 sunsets the bill in 5 years. Move the amendments.
Question for the House is the adoption of the amendments. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. Amendments have been adopted. Question now is adoption of the favorable report as amended. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. Favorable report is adopted. Gentlelady from Baltimore County.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Would the floor leader be willing to hold this to the end of the afternoon session, the morning session, so I could put an amendment on?
Again, it can be amended on third reading.
I thought, oh, this is
The end of this session is perfectly fine.
Okay. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair.
By the way, for the record, this bill is very, very similar to a bill that we passed for Oxford, Maryland.
Okay. Is there any further debate on this bill to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered to pass the third reading. Huh? Oh, special order? Oh, I'm sorry. Can you put it back? What's the number? Yeah. Senate Bill 888 will be special order to the end of the calendar. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. Bill has been special order. Report of the Committee on Health and Government Operations, report number 34. Clerk will read the first bill.
House Bill 836, COVID-19 Testing, Contact Tracing, and Vaccination Act of 2021. Favor of the amendments. Amendment number 1.
Recognizing the floor leader.
Move so much be considered the reading of the amendments.
So ordered.
The amendments conform the bill to the cross-file Senate Bill 741, which passed the Senate and the House. Move the amendments.
Question for the House is the adoption of the amendments. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. The amendments have been adopted. Question now is adoption of the favorable report as amended. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. Favorable report is adopted. Are there any additional amendments to the bill to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered past the third reading. Clerk, read next bill.
House Bill 879, Maryland Emergency Management Agency Cyber Security Coordination and Operations Office Establishment. Favor of the amendments. Amendment number 1.
Recognizing the floor leader.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Move so much be considered the reading and amendments.
So ordered.
The amendments conform the bill to the Senate bill, which has already passed the House. Move the amendments.
Question for the House is the adoption of the amendments. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. The amendments have been adopted. Question now is the adoption of the favorable report as amended. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. Favorable report is adopted. Are there any additional amendments to the bill to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered printed for third reading. Clerk, read next bill.
Senate Bill 49, State Government Department of Information Technology Cybersecurity. Favor of the amendments. Amendment number 1.
Recognizing the floor leader.
Move so much be considered the reading amendments. These amendments also conform the bill to the cross-file. Move the amendments.
Question for the House is the adoption of the amendment. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. Amendments are adopted. Question now is the adoption of the favorable report as amended. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. Favorable report is adopted. Are there any additional amendments to the bill to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered past the third reading. Clerk will read next.
Senate Bill 82, State Board of Examiners for Audiologists, Hearing Aid Dispensers, and Speech Language Pathologists, Maryland Music Therapists Act. Favor of the amendments. Amendment number 1.
Recognizing the floor leader.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I'll be so much consider the reading of the amendments.
So ordered.
Amendment number 1 is technical. Amendment number 2 specifies the representation to the public a licensed music therapist may make regarding communication disorders. Amendment number 3 clarifies that a music therapist may work with a client who has a communication disorder and address communication skills. Amendment number 4 makes the content of the license for music therapists consistent with other licenses issued by the board, and Amendment number 5 reduces specified monetary penalties and misdemeanor fines from $10,000 to $5,000 and strikes language authorizing a civil fine for unlicensed practice. Move the amendments.
Question for the House is the adoption of the amendments. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. Amendments have been adopted. Question now is the adoption of the favorable report as amended. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. Favorable report is adopted. Are there any additional amendments to the bill to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered passed to third reading. Clerk will read next bill.
Senate Bill 550, Sheila E. Hickson Behavioral Health Services Matching Grant Program for Service Members and Veterans Establishment. Favorable.
Question for the House is the adoption of the favorable report. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. The favorable report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered past the third reading. Report of the Committee on Judiciary, report number 56. Clerk will read the first bill.
Senate Bill 187, Criminal Procedure, Forensic Genetic Genealogical DNA Analysis, Searching, Regulation, and Oversight. Favorable.
The question before the House is the adoption of the favorable report. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. The favorable report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill or to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered past the third reading. Clerk will read next bill.
Senate Bill 800, Inmate Training and Job Act of 2021. Favorable.
Question before the House is the adoption of the favorable report. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. The favorable report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill or to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered past the third reading.
I'm sorry, Madam Speaker. I thought you saw me.
No. The gentleman from Western Maryland.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Would the floor leader rise just for a question as to the meaning of the bill?
Sure, Delegate.
Thank you very much. My question was, I read the fiscal note, and my understanding is this talks about individuals who are actually incarcerated, so they're active inmates. It's not when they're on parole or probation and they're out. While they're still incarcerated, being able to obtain training and credits, degree awarding credits. And what wasn't clear to me from the fiscal note itself is this taking the prisoners, the incarcerated individuals, outside of the wire. It's all being done virtually. Is that
it's all being done virtually
Perfect.
in-house?
Okay, because I represent, we have two very large prisons in my district. I represent a lot of correctional officers, and one of them had asked, would that bill require us to actually transport prisoners to and from a facility of higher learning, because that sometimes causes security concerns? But you're talking about all doing it with them inside the facilities via virtual means.
Yes, absolutely. And part of the fiscal note is to pay for the technology that those correctional facilities would need to be able to implement the program.
Thank you for your answer. I appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Is there any further debate? Hearing none, the bill is ordered past the third reading. Report of the Committee on Rules, report number 9. The clerk will read the bills and the committees they are re-referred to.
Senate Bill 137, re-referred to Environment and Transportation. Senate Bill 269, re-referred to Ways and Means. Senate Bill 334, re-referred to Environment and Transportation. Senate Bill 460, re-referred to Economic Matters. Senate Bill 569, re-referred to Environment and Transportation. Senate Bill 578, re-referred to Ways and Means. Senate Bill 677, re-referred to Economic Matters. Senate Bill 711, re-referred to Ways and Means and Appropriations. Senate Bill 829, re-referred to Health and Government Operations. Senate Bill 859, re-referred to Environment, Transportation, and Appropriations. Senate Bill 902, re-referred to Economic Matters and Appropriations. Senate Bill 916, re-referred to Ways and Means.
Concurrence Calendar number 21, the clerk will read the bill and the Senate amendments.
House Bill 156, Student and Military Voter Empowerment Act, Amendment Number 1.
Recognizing the committee chair.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Move to concur with the Senate amendments. The Senate amendments add additional items that a local board of elections and an institution of higher education must collaborate on, strikes the requirements about students having 2 hours off on election day, prohibits the student voting plan from instructing students on who to vote for. Move to concur.
Question for the House is to concur in the Senate amendments. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. House Bill 156 is on third reading and final passage. The clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 108 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 156, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
House Bill 205, Public Schools, Provision of Menstrual Hygiene Products Requirement, Amendment Number 1.
Recognizing the committee chair.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Move so much be considered the reading of the amendments.
So ordered.
The Senate amendment limits the provision of menstrual hygiene products to women's restrooms in middle and high school and provides $50,000 in state funding for the installation of product dispensers in FY 2023. We move to concur.
The question before the House is to concur in the Senate amendments. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. House Bill 205 is
Madam
on third.
Speaker.
Recognizing the gentlelady from Carroll.
I just had a question. And thank you yesterday for explaining the changes in the bill, but what is left for the cost and who's paying for what?
Well, we're providing this amount of the state funding, the $500,000, and we're leaving the rest to the local jurisdictions.
Okay, so originally it was over $1 million. What changed from the million to the 500,000? In the fiscal note it said it was about $1 million they estimated.
I think it's because we had more restrooms, and we had the boys' restrooms, and we had more in the elementary schools, where it's now just the one bathroom in the elementary school.
Okay, thank you. And my only opposition to this now, most school districts take care of this. I've never had a complaint in my school district ever because we take care of it. And I just think getting the state involved in, somebody billing and sending their invoices in for this should be part of what schools offer. I mean, we're given a very hefty amount in Kerwin, and I think it should be offered, and we shouldn't have some special program that have to bill this and pay for it. It just seems a little overkill on something that should be offered anyway in the school system.
I agree it should be offered anyway, but I think this bill will confirm
Thank you.
that it will.
Thank you.
Is there any further debate? House Bill 205 is on third reading and final passage. The clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 109 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 205, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
House Bill 944, Growing Family Child Care Opportunities Pilot Program, established, Amendment Number 1.
Recognizing the committee chair.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Move so much be considered the reading of the amendments.
So ordered.
The Senate amendment requires that the governor must use federal funds to cover the cost of the pilot program if authorized under federal law. Move to concur with the Senate amendments.
Question before the House is to concur in the Senate amendments. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. House Bill 944 is on third reading and final passage. The clerk will call.
Madam Speaker.
Recognizing the gentlelady from Howard.
May I ask the floor leader just one question?
Committee chair.
Is that the question?
You said that the money would come from the feds. Is there still a mandate in the bill?
No, there is not the mandate. It's saying that, I apologize, yes, there is the mandate, but as I was saying before, that if there are federal funds available, that we have to use the federal funds first.
Okay.
The federal funds should be able to cover the program.
Okay, thank you.
Any further debate? Clerk will take the call.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 128 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 944, having received the constitutional majority, is declared passed. Concurrence count. Concurrence calendar number 22. The clerk will read the bill and the Senate amendment.
House Bill 1131, Carroll County Public Facilities Bond, Amendment Number 1.
Recognizing the committee chair.
Move so much to be the reading amendments.
So ordered.
Amendment number 1 is technical. Move the amendment.
Question for the,
Move to concur with the Senate amendments.
Question for the House is to concur in the Senate amendments. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. House Bill 1131 is on third reading and final passage. Clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 136 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 1131, having received the constitutional majority, is declared passed. Concurrence calendar number 23. The clerk will read the bill and the Senate amendments.
House Bill 363, Maryland Public Ethics Law, retaliation for reporting or participating in investigation, prohibition, Amendment Number 1.
Recognizing the committee chair.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. We move to concur in the Senate amendments.
Question before the House is to concur in the Senate amendments. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. House Bill 363 is on third reading and final passage. The clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 133 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 363, having received the constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read next bill.
House Bill 1207, Environment, Commission on Environmental Justice and Sustainable Communities Reform, Amendment Number 1.
Recognizing the committee chair.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. We move to concur in the Senate amendments.
Question for the House is to concur in the Senate amendments. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. Recognizing the minority whip.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Floor Leader, would you answer a question, please?
Sure.
Thank you. Are the asphalt and transportation builders still opposed to this bill?
I had no idea they were opposed in the first place.
Yeah, they submitted testimony opposing the bill. I was wondering if you addressed their opposition.
The ordinary floor leader has more information at her disposal, but,
Great. Thank
but
you.
I will say, though, that even if they were, it's a good bill.
They might not agree with you, but okay.
Floor Leader.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I'm curious, can you elaborate on why they were?
Yeah, I just, I like to look at what I'm voting on and who's supporting and who's opposing. And so I will tell you that the Maryland Asphalt Association said that they were opposed. While we appreciate the sponsor's intent, we oppose it. It's erroneous in its nature, presenting significant hurdles in the pursuit of solutions which are already effectively being sought by the current Commission on Environmental Justice and Sustainable Communities. At a time when we are facing an economic crisis and coping with various consequences of the COVID-19 pandemic, we must focus our resources on the most pressing issues, like our crumbling roads and highways, improving public transportation options, and addressing economic disparities within Maryland. We believe it's paramount to address these problems at hand before they are inadvertently exacerbated by misguided and burdensome legislation. Therefore, we ask for an unfavorable report.
Thank you, Dolly. Can you tell me the date of that letter?
Yeah, let's see. February 24th.
And today is April 10th.
Yeah,
Did they resubmit a letter that you know of?
No, not on your committee. And in our wonderful committee, we work with people who were opposed, and I just assumed you did the same thing.
They were concerned about the supplemental environmental projects, which is out of the bill.
Oh, so you think probably now because of that issue,
That's correct, Delegate.
they probably don't have opposition?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you.
Is there a gentleman from Talbot?
Thank you, Madam Speaker. And I've got a question for the floor leader about the bill. And the bill has been changed significantly through the process. The purpose of the bill is still the same, right? Still the Climate Solutions Act. So
This is not the Climate Solutions Act, Delegate. This is the Commission on Environmental Justice and Sustainable Communities Reform.
Thank you. You've answered all my questions.
Great.
House Bill 1207 is on third reading and final passage. The clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 102 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 1207, having received the constitutional majority, is declared passed. Concurrence calendar number 24. The clerk will read the bill and the Senate amendments.
House Bill 1261, wills, powers of attorney, and advance directives, electronic execution. Amendment number 1.
Recognizing the committee chair.
Committee moves to concur with the Senate amendments.
Question for the House is to concur in the Senate amendments. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? No. The ayes have it. House Bill 1261 is on third reading and final passage. The clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 135 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 1261, having received the constitutional majority, is declared passed. Concurrence calendar number 25. The clerk will read the bill and the Senate amendments.
House Bill 30, Office of People's Counsel alterations, Office of People's Counsel Environmental Reform Act, Amendment number 1.
Economic Matters. Committee Chair.
Move to concur.
Question before the House is to concur in the Senate amendments. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? No. The ayes have it. House Bill 30 is on third reading and final passage. The clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 97 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 30, having received the constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
House Bill 419, Economic Development, Advance Clean Energy and Clean Energy Innovation Investments and Initiatives, Amendment number 1.
Recognizing the committee chair.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Move so much be considered the reading of the amendment.
So ordered.
The Senate amendments add one item to the definition of advanced clean energy. Move to concur.
Question for the House is to concur in the Senate amendments. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? No. The ayes have it. House Bill 419 is on third reading and final passage. Clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 97 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 419, having received the constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk, read next bill.
House Bill 606, Electricity and Gas Limited Income Mechanisms and Assistance, Amendment number 1.
Recognizing the committee chair.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Move to concur with the Senate amendment. The Senate amendments update funding language to reflect funding made available for this bill under supplemental budget number 5.
Question for the House is to concur in the Senate amendments. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. House Bill 606 is on third reading and final passage. The clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, clerk will take the call. There being 96 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 606, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read next bill.
House Bill 1108, Washington County Alcoholic Beverages Special Event Permits for Wineries, Amendment number 1.
Recognizing the committee chair.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. The Senate amendments, move to concur with the Senate amendments. The Senate amendments provides for the termination of the bill.
Question for the House is to concur in the Senate amendments. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. House Bill 1108 is on third reading and final passage. The clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, clerk will call the roll. There being 136 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 1108, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Concurrence calendar number 26. The clerk will read the bill and the Senate amendments.
House Bill 1091, State Procurement, Emergency and Expedited Procurements, Revisions and Reporting, Amendment number 1.
Madam
Two
Speaker.
of you came up.
I move so much to be the reading of the amendments.
Okay, sorry, go ahead.
Amendment number 1 is technical. Amendment number 2 alters requirements for emergency procurement. And amendment number 3 makes a reporting requirement. Move the Senate amendments.
Question for the House is to concur in the Senate amendments. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. House Bill 1091 is on third reading and final passage. The clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 124 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 1091, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Concurrence calendar number 27. Clerk will read the bill and the Senate amendments.
House Bill 974, Prince George's County Alcoholic Beverages License Sanctions and Sunday Off-Sale Permits, favorable, Amendment number 1.
Recognizing the committee chair.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. The Senate amendments change the maximum term for serving alcohol to underage individuals to 2 years. Move to concur with the Senate amendments.
The question before the House is to concur in the Senate amendments. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. House Bill 974 is on third reading and final passes. The clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 134 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 974, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read next bill.
House Bill 1210, Corporate Diversity Board, Executive Leadership and Mission, Amendment number 1.
Recognizing the committee chair.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. We'll move to concur with the Senate amendments. The Senate amendments expand the list of entities the bill does not apply to include a limited liability company owned by a single member, a privately held company if at least 75% of the company's shareholders are family members, and an entity that has an operating budget or annual sales less than $5 million and does not qualify for a state benefit. It strikes language relating to a diversity scorecard and substitute diversity report, and remove the requirement that a certain diversity report be publicly posted. Move to concur with the Senate amendments.
The question for the House is to concur in the Senate amendments. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. House Bill 1210 is on third reading and final passage. The clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 96 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 1210, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Quorum call.
Madam Speaker.
Clerk will take the call. There being 135 members present, the House is still in session. Calendar of third reading, Senate Bills number 68. Clerk will read the bill.
Senate Bill 201, Criminal Procedure, Expungement of Records.
Yes. Senate Bill 201 is on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? Not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 100 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 201, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Senate Bill 35, message from the Senate. The clerk will read the message.
Do I need to read the bill first or just the message?
No, it's the message.
Yeah. Senate Bill 35, ladies and gentlemen of the House of Delegates, the Senate today, notwithstanding the objections of the governors, voted to override the veto on Senate Bill 35. Said bill is sent to you for your consideration.
The clerk will read the message. I did. I'm sorry. I'm tired. Hearing no objection, the message is ordered journalized. The clerk will read the bill.
Senate Bill 35, Procurement, Prevailing Wage, Applicability.
The question before the House is, shall the bill pass notwithstanding the objections of the Chief Executive? A green vote overrides the governor's veto. 85 votes are needed. A red vote sustains the veto. The clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Clerk will call the roll. There being 95 votes in the affirmative, The veto has been overridden. Message to the Senate. The clerk will read the message.
Ladies and gentlemen of the Senate, the House of Delegates has voted to override the governor's veto of Senate Bill 35. Said bill is returned to the Senate herewith, having been enacted under Article 2, Section 17 of the Maryland Constitution.
Hearing no objection, the message is adopted. Special order calendar number 92. The clerk will read the bill.
Senate Bill 65, Electricity Renewable Energy Portfolio Standard Qualifying Biomass, bill on third reading.
Recognizing the committee chair who made the motion to special order.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. The bill is ready to go.
Senate Bill 65 is on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 96 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 65, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Quorum call.
Madam Speaker.
Clerk will take the call. There being 138 members present, the House is still in session. Calendar of third reading, Senate Bills number 52. Clerk will read the first.
Senate Bill 172, Maryland Health Equity Resource Act.
Is on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 97 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 172, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read next bill.
Senate Bill 353, Veterans Benefits and Benefits Appeal Services, Disclosure Requirements.
Is on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 137 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 353, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read next bill.
Senate Bill 360, State Government Notaries Public, Notary Public Fund, and Remote Notarial Acts.
Is on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 136 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 360, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read next bill.
Senate Bill 469, Maryland Medical Assistance Program, Applied Behavior Analysis Services, Reimbursement.
Is on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 134 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 469, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 666, Courts of Appeal and Special Appeals renaming.
Is on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 123 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 666, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 689, Office of Small, Minority, and Women Business Affairs, Duties of the Special Secretary, Minority Business Enterprises.
Is on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 133 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 689, having received the constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 736, Health Occupations, Pharmacist, Administration of Children's Vaccines, Study, and Temporary Authority.
Is on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? Gentleman from Cecil in the annex.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I have an amendment at the desk. Amendment number is 293028-1.
Amendment number 1.
Move so much be considered the reading of the amendment.
So ordered.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. We had some very spirited debate yesterday and really enjoyed it, that dealt with COVID vaccines, mandating vaccines, the right of the government to bother people into getting those vaccines or not bother them. And this amendment actually deals directly with what's being touted right now. And there's actually a poignant article in the Baltimore Sun today about vaccine passports. And specifically, government mandating those passports to participate in what I will describe as everyday life. Ability to travel, ability to enter government buildings, ability to go to school, universities, etc. Just to clarify and put a finer point here on this amendment, it would prevent government from limiting autonomy, decision-making, freedoms of expression, or access to public service based on your immunization history. The reason that this amendment is so important is because this would put us in a similar posture with states like Texas, Florida, Utah, and Ohio, and Idaho. Frankly put, these passports violate our privacy, they're potential HIPAA infractions, and mandating them could lead to discrimination of our citizens. The Fed has vacillated on this topic. There's been talk about creating a nationwide database, whether it be virtual, whether it be a card. And by preventing folks to participate in everyday society based on this, I think it's an unwise move. And for all those reasons, I'd like to push this amendment. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Floor leader.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. May I defer to the subcommittee chair who's over in the annex?
Yeah, let us special order until the amendment to later on today.
Okay, then I'll ask a special order then. Thank you.
Okay. Question for the House of Special Order SB 736 to appropriate time later today. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The bill has been special ordered. Calendar of third reading Senate bills, number 66. The clerk will read the first bill.
Senate Bill 74, Maryland Police Accountability Act of 2021, Employee Assistance Programs and Early Intervention Programs.
Is on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate?
Madam Speaker.
Recognizing the gentlelady from Baltimore County.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I just wanted to rise and say I know we disagree a lot about some of the policy here, but I'm proud to support this bill, and I hope it makes our state a safer place.
Is there any further debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 133 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 74, having received the constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk, read next bill.
Senate Bill 414, Climate Solutions Now Act of 2021.
Is on third reading and final passage. The gentleman from Talbot.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Got to recover. So I've got a couple. Well, first, the bill. The bill's changed a lot, correct?
Recognizing the vice chair of the committee.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Yes, we did make some significant revisions.
Yeah, and it kind of got up earlier. I thought I had the wrong bill, and I was going through the bill is designed for reducing greenhouse gases. That's the purpose of the bill, right?
That's the overall purpose. We call it climate solutions. So it's meant to set new targets for reducing greenhouse gas emissions, as well as providing a number of solutions to help us get there.
Yeah, and so I went through it, and I just pulled out a couple things. There's a report on reducing, a report from MDE with a plan for reducing greenhouse gases. That's still in there, right?
Yes.
And then there's an employment and retraining work group that's still in there.
That's
right?
correct.
Right. And then there's a requirement to implement the International Green Construction Code, right?
Well, what it is 10 years ago, we passed a law authorizing builders to use what's called the International Green Construction Code, which is an alternative compliance pathway for getting to energy efficient construction.
Mm-hmm.
And actually, it's one option for meeting the state's requirement for high performance building. So what this bill does is says that the state needs to adopt the most current version. We were stuck at, I believe, the 2012 version. So this bill says we need to update it, the 2018 version, and then every time there's a new version of the IGCC that comes out, which is every 3 years, it needs to be adopted.
Yeah. And then the bill also has requirements for improvement to state facilities like HVAC improvements and the vehicle fleet switching over. They're still in the bill, right?
That's right. I mean, the bill's original provisions for energy efficiency requirements for new state buildings have changed. But also the upgrades to zero emission vehicles for the state fleet have changed as well. I can go into details if you would like.
Right, and then there's the 5 million tree program. That's still in the bill.
That's still in there. Yes.
And then the use of concrete. I mean, that's what caught my attention earlier was the concrete. That's still in the bill, right?
That's right. That actually is new, providing that the Board of Public Works shall give a price preference to climate-friendly concrete, since regular concrete uses a lot of greenhouse gases in its production.
Yeah, and then there's is that provision in the bill that still allows for the tax exemption for community solar from county and municipal taxes?
That's correct. It is a more targeted provision for community solar. It says that there's an exemption from the personal property taxes for community solar projects that are on roofs or brownfield facilities, a few other locations, and where the majority of the customers are low to moderate income customers. So that, that provision is still in the bill as it was originally.
Yeah, and then there's the Blue Ribbon Solar Land Use Commission, that's still there.
That's correct. That's been added.
And then there's also the Commission for Innovation and Advancement of Carbon Markets and Sustainable Tree Plantings.
That's correct. That is the commission that is, its mission is to make recommendations with respect to the 5 million tree plantings, as well as also see how we can tap into what's called the voluntary carbon market. So perhaps groups that are planting these trees can actually get money from companies that provide these voluntary carbon credits.
Yeah, and so all these things are in the bill. You know, we've got a report, we've got workforce training, we've got building codes, we've got state procurement, we've got taxes, we've got the environmental tree program. I guess concrete use would fall under procurement. And then we got a creation of a whole new, I guess, a commerce thing. It's probably an MD, but a commerce thing dealing with the carbon markets, MDE with the RECs. And my question came up in committee, and I was hoping we could get an explanation. And we've been talking a lot about the rules, and I didn't realize that I've been waiting to have this conversation. But you know, the House has, we've got this Rule 45 about single subject. And for the life of me, I'm trying to articulate how all of those provisions all fall under one subject. I think for me, the one that is just the flag flies up is when you've got taxes mixed in with some of the other things. I know we're focused on reducing greenhouse gases. So I guess my question, I don't know if it's appropriate for the floor leader or the parliamentarian, is how all of these issues fall within one single subject. And I even went so far as to pull it up in the Constitution, the way it's written. I mean, it's right in the good book, which is, I've got the good book right here, about, you know, we're limited in hold on one second. In, I believe it's, Article 3, Section 29, that every law enacted by the General Assembly shall be embraced but one subject and shall be described in its title. I'm not sure if I'm making a parliamentary point of order, but if this applies for greenhouse gases, I mean, I just would like an explanation or some understanding of how this is a single subject, because you know we could flip this around and talk of a lot of important issues that are broad and expansive and affect all parts of our society, but at some point there is a single subject in the manner in which issues are debated and the way they're put into law, and that's the process that was set up for us by our forefathers. So I don't know if you're the person to answer that, Madam Speaker. I don't know if I should address it to the parliamentarian.
Parliamentarian.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and thank you so much, Delegate, for your question and for ensuring our diligent application of the rules. If it's okay, given that the floor leader has the expertise on this legislation, I would just like to ask the floor leader to confirm with us that all of the provisions of the bill relate to the subject of climate and the environment and climate change.
Vice Chair.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Yes, Delegate, that is correct. I mean, the title is called Climate Solutions Now, and so every provision in the bill is what we would say is a climate solution. The response to the climate issue requires a comprehensive response, many different types of solutions, and so each of the sections in the bill that we've gone over is one of those climate solutions. So I say they're all connected by the thread of helping Maryland with our response to climate.
But when you read the bill and the things that the bill the items, the provisions in the bill, what they're implementing go beyond the climate. We're talking about building code, we're talking about local taxes, even construction with the type of concrete.
Madam Speaker.
Purpose?
To respond to the question from the delegate who represents Oxford, Maryland, and the soon-to-be installed lovely photo radar system.
Absolutely yield to the chairman.
Yeah, okay. Chairman?
Everything in this bill relates to solutions to fight global climate change. Everything. And there are so many different strategies to employ, but the one common element in all of them is that we are fighting global climate change. And that's what this bill does, and I'm saying it's all that this bill does. It does it in many different ways. We do it by implementing the recommendations of this governor's Secretary of Environment. We do it by improving the electrification of vehicles. We do it by improving buildings, many different things, but they all bear upon improving the climate of the climate. So I would believe that they are all very relevant to climate solutions now.
Well, in my short tenure, I can't remember a bill that was this expansive and addressed so many things. I mean, we could talk about hunger, and we could do a bill on hunger that would affect, a myriad of topics. And at some point, the precedent that we're creating by putting all of these things into one bill creates, I think, to me, it creates a very serious concern. And I appreciate the time to talk to you about the application of Rule 45. I guess there's no way to file an appeal or to make an argument against the ruling that's already been made. I would just share that concern and criticism of the bill with you, and thank you for your time.
Gentleman from Carroll in the Annex.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I do have a question or two for the floor leader before I launch into my tirade, if I could.
That's fine. Gentleman may proceed.
All right, thank you. I can't see him. All I see is my lovely face. So I know that the bill has been amended heavily, and I appreciate that. One of the questions that I do ask is, looking at the fiscal note, and I guess it's the fiscal note associated with the pre-amended bill. It talks about in trying to reach this 60% goal by 2030, that there shouldn't be any more highway widening or additional road construction. So as the bill's been amended, does that still apply?
Well, Delegate, actually what that provision you're referring to said was that in coming up with a plan to reduce greenhouse gas emissions by 50% by 2030, the state or Department of the Environment shall not take into account the impact of any highway widening. And that was because in a draft report by MDE at one point, that was in there. That is, the expansion of I-495, I-270 was in the report as a climate-friendly measure. The premise was that, well, if there's less congestion, you'll have less auto pollution. But myself and the others and the sponsor in the Senate tended to feel that that would not be a proper solution to the climate problem. And so we just said that as part of any plan that's required under the bill, highway widening could not be included. Otherwise, it has absolutely no impact on any highway widening that that the state or MDOT would like to do, or any local jurisdiction.
And it wouldn't have any impact on new road construction then either then, right?
Correct, no impact.
Okay. Now, there's also some language that I was able to glean from the fiscal note that says that by fiscal year 23, the MTA would be precluded from buying buses that aren't zero-emission buses. Does that still
That's
apply?
correct. That's correct, and the funding was to come from the Transportation Trust Fund for that purchase of zero-emission buses.
So that's still in?
That's right. That's
Okay.
correct.
Okay. And there's language in there about light-duty vehicles that the state otherwise would purchase that says that by 2025, 100% of those would be zero-emission vehicles. Is that still in?
Well, the way the bill is written is that passenger vehicles are the first target for buying zero-emission vehicles. So it starts out at 25% for passenger cars, and then beginning in 2027, all other types of light-duty vehicles there would be a percentage of the turnover in the fleet that would have to be zero-emission vehicles until, I believe, by 2035, the intention is that 100% of the light-duty fleet would be zero-emission.
So as amended, then you're telling me that we've bumped that up from 2025 as a goal for 100% zero emission to 2035 now?
No, I'm saying that's for. Initially, the bill was written to cover light-duty vehicles and set percentage standards for the purchase of them. The bill breaks light-duty vehicles out into two categories: passenger vehicles and then all other light-duty vehicles. So we're talking about cargo vans, light pickup trucks, SUVs, et cetera. So the purchase of those vehicles as zero-emission vehicles starts in 2027, later than when the requirements for passenger vehicles kicks in.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Floor Leader. I appreciate it. On the bill, Madam Speaker, I mean, this bill's certainly something. While I appreciate the work the committee has done to improve this thing, I'm a firm believer that you can't make a silk purse out of a sow's ear. And what do I mean by that? Well, it calls for these greenhouse gas emissions reductions to 60%, I believe now, by 2030. That's less than 10 years away. It certainly doesn't seem plausible that we can get to that place without onerous and drastic actions. And then, of course, I believe it's still in the bill. I should have asked about this too, but there's still this big solar panel component, and I know we'll deal probably with other legislation at some point, hence dealing with solar panels, but as we sit here today, we don't even know what to do with those things after they've achieved their useful lives, and that doesn't seem to be environmentally good. And then there's the zero-emission vehicles part of the bill that I was just asking the floor leader about. And, there's this graduated goal, I guess, of getting to the point where Maryland's entire fleet will be comprised of zero-emission vehicles. And all you have to do is, you can jump on the internet right now and see how much more expensive those things are, at least as we sit here today, compared to your good old-fashioned internal combustion engine. Now, the bottom line, as I see it, is this. We have a fiscal note associated with this bill that says that this thing is going to cost a lot. They don't know how much, the fiscal note writers. They say, quote, although a reliable estimate of the bill's impact on state finances cannot be made at this time, state expenditures increase significantly. That's their word, not mine. Significantly, beginning in FY 2022. And the bill redirects funding from several existing special funds to offset some of these costs. The bottom line also that I would underscore is this. I realize that this notion of climate change is a hot topic for many of the folks in here who may or may not be AOC acolytes. But when will the Maryland legislature start looking at measures like this using a good old-fashioned cost-benefit analysis? When will little old rinky-dink, geographically challenged Maryland, one of the smallest states in terms of land mass in the United States, stop thinking that by enacting measures like this, we'll be able to unilaterally save the planet while industrialized nations like India and China continue to build power plants out to wazoo, spew greenhouse gases into the stratosphere, and laugh at us all the way to the bank. Not surprisingly, Madam Speaker, I'll be voting red. Thank you.
Madam Speaker.
Vice Chair of the committee.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. If I could, I appreciate the delegates' comments and questions. There are a few things, though, that I do want to address. First, the goal of greenhouse gas reductions by 2030, as the bill was introduced, was 60%. However, we've reduced that to 50% in recognition of the fact that it may not be practical to set a goal of 60% by 2030. However, 50%, the Maryland Department of the Environment has already said is a realistic goal to get to. So while we certainly moved the marker significantly, increasing it from 40% to 50% by 2030, we're also doing it in a practical way. With respect to solar panels, this bill actually has relatively little impact on, direct impact on solar panels. There is, as discussed before, there is a modest tax incentive for community solar projects that benefit low to moderate income households. That's it in terms of directly addressing the use of solar panels. With respect to the expenses of the fleet, I would say we don't address heavy-duty vehicles in this bill. We focus on passenger cars, light duty, but the difference in price between a zero-emission vehicle and a internal combustion vehicle is becoming smaller all the time. And when you factor in the operational savings, in the end, the passenger vehicles and light-duty vehicles that are zero-emission, they are less expensive. I also should say that we do have the MTA bus fleet converting to zero-emission vehicles. And lastly, I'll just say with respect to special funds, our amendments have reduced reliance on special funds significantly. Compared to the original bill, I would say we have reduced our reliance on special funds by about 95%. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Madam Speaker.
Gentleman from committee chair.
Thank you. Just very quickly, Madam Speaker and members of the House, I just heard from the Attorney General's office, and this is what they said. You asked whether Senate Bill 414, as amended by the House, violates a single subject rule in the Maryland Constitution. I do not believe that it does. The bill, as introduced and amended, makes broad changes in state law to address climate change. Each of the House amendments are germane to that single subject. Thank you very much, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. Gentleman from Garrett.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. May I ask the floor leader just a couple of clarification questions?
Vice Chair.
Sure. The question about the gentleman from the Eastern Shore had raised an issue about tax credits for solar facilities. Is that tax credit only apply to individual household credits? Does it have any impact on the industrial or commercial solar projects that are coming to the state? Does this bill take away any of those tax credits?
No, it has no impact on the otherwise existing tax credits for those types of solar projects.
I mean, does it provide tax credits for those? Did it take away any of the personal property taxes that those facilities pay into the counties when they go there?
Only if it does provide a personal property tax exemption, only if the community solar program is installed on rooftops, parking lots, brownfields, and the like, not systems that are installed on farmland, and only if 51% of the power that's generated is provided to low to moderate income households. Right now in the state there's just a small handful, less than half a dozen of projects that meet that definition. And so the goal of that personal property tax exemption is to incentivize more of these community solar projects that provide power directly to low to moderate income households.
Yeah, and the reason for my question is that we have a proposed project coming into Garrett County that's going to cover 900 acres, and it's going to provide 125 megawatts of electricity from that project. But one of the things that they're promising the county is, and getting approval and things for it, is that they're going to be paying considerable amount of personal property tax. And I just want to make sure, and also, as you know, the only large industrial windmill projects in the county are also out in our end of the state, and they've been welcomed into the county in large part due to the fact that they're paying a large amount of personal property tax. So I just want to make sure this bill does not negatively impact those situations.
It should not.
And there's one other thing I'd like to ask. When you refer to the net greenhouse gas reductions, or the net zero statewide greenhouse gas emissions by 2045, is this just greenhouse gas emissions from what are produced in the state, and is this based on the base load of 2006? Could you explain more fully what you really mean by that total net greenhouse gas reduction by 2045?
It would mean a reduction of greenhouse gases emitted by the state between reductions of emissions as well as taking into account sequestration, be it through farming or for forests or any other new technology that comes along between now and then that can sequester carbon in a verifiable way. So that would mean, on balance, there would be net zero emissions.
But does that mean net zero emissions from a baseline that was set in 2006, or is this a total reduction of greenhouse gases from all carbon-based sources that are being used in the state?
The latter.
It's the latter?
Yes.
So that means all coal-fired power plants, all facilities, maybe wood-burning facilities that produce CO2 will have to be eliminated from the state?
No, it doesn't mean that there have to be zero emissions. It doesn't mean that coal-fired power plants would have to be shut down. It just means that whatever is being emitted has to be offset via these different types of sequestration, which can be considerable in terms of the...
So this goes back where it comes into play where we have the REC credits. The REC credits would have to, they still have to would continue to buy REC credits in order to be able to emit CO2 from some source. If they do that, they can still operate. Is that what you're saying?
No, there wouldn't be. I mean, it's possible there might be a carbon market that's set up, But no, this does not require that anyone that emits CO2 or methane has to pay basically a fee per pound or ton of CO2 emitted to be able to do that. Just the net zero concept, and of course this is 24 years from now, is the idea that whatever we emit, and I'm sure there are going to be some combustion engines, cars with combustion engines still on the road, and there will be some power plants that are still emitting pollution. That just means that we have to offset whatever pollution is being emitted by those combined sources via sequestration, which is considerable, which can be, again, considerable.
So yeah, I'm beginning to get the picture. So say like AES Warrior Run power plant out in Allegheny County, that plant currently is sequestering some of its CO2 from the stack, but it's only doing like 5%. But with the way things are going, there's indication that that facility is going to shut down. So they would be not sequestering any more CO2. So you're foreseeing, or is it your thoughts going forward in the future, that if there is a coal-fired power plant continuing to operate, that plant's going to have to collect 100% of the CO2 and somehow or other sequester it?
Delegate, no, it's not on a plant-by-plant basis. It's in the aggregate statewide. I mean, for example, one reason why we propose under this bill planting 5 million trees is that trees are the best available technology for sequestering carbon. In addition, of course, they're very good at reducing runoff, at mitigating the heat island effect, et cetera. But they are especially good at sequestering, pulling down, and keeping it for years, if not decades, carbon into the soil. So we're saying when you aggregate all those sources of sequestration, by 2045, they would need to offset the pollution, the carbon pollution that's being generated. There's nothing here that says that an actual emitter has to then also sequester an equivalent amount of carbon.
Again, thank you for answering my questions, because it's starting to really, I'm starting to see that there are more possibilities, as you said, planting trees and that sort of thing. And obviously, this is to plant trees and those sort of things. That's probably going to impact the rural areas of the state a lot more than it is. And it fits in also with the objective to put more land in ag preservation and that sort of thing. But I think probably what we're going to see is a lot of farm fields going into trees and that sort of thing. But you know, I have 2 farms, and they're both in ag preservation, and I got a lot of trees on them, and I hope they stay that way. So, in any event, thank you for taking your time and answering my questions. Thank you, Madam.
You're welcome.
Gentlelady from Baltimore County in the Annex.
Great.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I heard the good delegate from Carroll County talking about the fiscal note, and I do appreciate his concern for the fiscal welfare of the state, and that is why this bill is so important. The costs of climate change to the state could be astronomical, will be astronomical. A 2019 study indicated that the cost for seawalls alone for Maryland would be $27 billion. That's just for seawalls, not for anything else. We've seen flooding already in Ellicott City, 2,000-year floods in a couple of years, flooding in Catonsville, in my area. The farms on the Eastern Shore are facing saltwater intrusion that will impact the ability of farming. And those are just a few of the costs that we're facing from climate change. So yes, the fiscal responsibility we have to the state is important. And that's why I'll be voting green on this bill, and why I encourage everyone else to vote green. Thank you.
Madam Speaker.
Gentleman from Calvert.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Just some questions for the floor leader. Just want to say for the record, I know the floor leader is very passionate about this issue. I've known him for a long time, and this is a subject about which he's very passionate. one of the questions I have for you concerns the goal of 50% by 2030. I guess the bill was amended to that. Where are we now? Where are we today?
I would have to get back to you as to exactly where we are, but in the range of 25%.
So we're about 25% where we need to be.
Well, for the 2030 goal, we're about half of where we need to be.
Oh,
But-
so we're half there if this bill were to pass.
That's correct.
Okay. And I guess the other question I have is, we just heard some discussion from the annex concerning the emergency, and I'm just wondering if you could go into what that because I hear that in committee, and this is sincere, I hear there's a climate emergency, and we have 12 years to live. I've heard that for 3 years, and just wondering if you can define that for me, because that seems to, we hear the rhetoric, but I want it defined.
Sure. Well, first, with respect to 12 years, I think the references that have been made are that we have 12 years, we, the state, the country, the world, to achieve significant reductions in our carbon emissions. In other words, to get onto a path of very deep, not get there, but start on the path to very deep reductions in our carbon emissions to avoid the worst impacts of climate change.
Okay. So that's entirely different from what we just heard, which is the seawalls and the money and all that stuff, because I'm not really sure how that would be really measured, because it's more rhetorical than it is science. When someone uses a large swath of the state and say seawalls everywhere, so it's a fair question, and you know that. One of the questions I also wanted to ask is, it says in the bill the social cost of carbon. What does that mean?
Well, that means the negative impact of a ton of carbon dioxide. And it factors in potential economic health impacts as well as health impacts.
Okay.
It's a study, it's been studied by EPA. I don't believe MDE has come up with a specific dollar amount for that cost of carbon, but this would, among other things, the report that would have to be prepared by MDE in determining what's the net economic benefit of the proposed plan. It would need to compare it to a no-action scenario when you're factoring in some sort of cost for pollution. And Delegate, if I could say, just to follow up on the comments that the delegate from Baltimore County was making, I think she was referring to future years in which, if climate change is unchecked, then, since Maryland is very vulnerable to rising sea levels, and we're already starting to see some modest increase in sea levels, that areas will be flooded, and the potential cost of building seawalls to prevent that flooding from impacting communities could be billions of dollars. I mean, that's down the line. That's toward the end of this century.
I appreciate that.
But
no, that's fair. So to that point, if the emergency is to the extent that is expressed by the advocates in the Economic Matters Committee, then why is it that your committee seems to be so prescriptive on only certain technologies but excludes nuclear power?
I would say this bill is agnostic with respect to nuclear power. Certainly nuclear power is, the fact that it has zero carbon emissions, that is factored in every 2 to 3 years when MDE does its study of carbon emissions. If we didn't have nuclear power, there'd be a lot more emissions. But this bill is really agnostic with respect to nuclear power.
Well, the bill, to be fair, the bill is really prescriptive about electric vehicles and, of course, solar farms, these kinds of things.
Madam Speaker, may I interject here?
Committee Chair?
Yes. To my friend from Calvert County, I think it's pretty clear that we have a facility in your county that produces a lot of electricity and with zero carbon emissions. And I think it's important for you to understand that no plan can be made that does not assume that. If we did not have that facility online, we would not be arguing about 50%. Right now, we'd be arguing about 25%. And so I think it's true, we want to encourage solar and wind, we want to encourage, carbon sequestration and tree planting. All that is true, but the background assumption in everything that we do includes the Calvercliffs facility. And while we don't explicitly refer to it in this bill, we don't need to any more than we need to explicitly, refer to anything else that's assumed in the background.
So to that point, Mr. Chairman, how much power does Calvercliffs generate for the state of Maryland?
I mean, I believe it's somewhere in the range of 20% of our electricity, I believe.
Thank you. So actually, just so you know, it's 44% of the state if it had to provide all of its power to the state, but it does sell some power.
And every percentage of
outside the
that
state.
is presumed to exist in all of the plans that we make.
So not according to the bill drafter. So according to the bill drafter, actually, if we were to include nuclear in this bill to the floor leader, we would actually have met the 2030 standard. And I don't have an amendment for this, to be fair, because this amendment was offered in committee. But if you did include nuclear power at Calvercliffs into the renewable energy portfolio standard, which seems to be the standard, I think, and it's a fair standard to use, then we would already be there for 2030. And so it's not included in the bill. So you mentioned the social cost of carbon to the floor leader, and I'm just wondering, is there any concern for the social cost of mining lithium? Because you need to mine an enormous amount of lithium to make electric car batteries, and batteries that you would put on power walls inside of houses and other places. And even Elon Musk mentioned that it's a problem. And I was just curious if that's included in the bill.
Madam Speaker, if I may.
Yes, Vice Chair.
Thank you. Delegate, it's not explicitly mentioned, but there's nothing in here that would not prevent the Department of the Environment in coming up with these plans to figure out what is the additional potential, say, public health cost of that type of activity.
And how about the social cost of cobalt, which also goes into electric car batteries, that's mined in places like Africa where they use child labor, and it's incredibly environmentally destructive? Is there any concern for that, since that goes? Madam Speaker, on the bill, I know this bill is on third reader. Just want to say that it's long past time, if we really believe that climate change is an emergency, which I know that many in this body do. If you believe that it's an emergency and that carbon emissions are bad, then what you would do is you would be doubling down on nuclear power. And that is to say, not just what's there now, but build the most advanced nuclear power facilities in the world and do it at Calvercliffs in Calvert County. And you would do that, and it would literally go a long way to solve the problem that you're trying to achieve in this bill. Without question, it would. And why would it? Well, Bill Gates has designed the traveling wave reactor, which actually uses the nuclear power waste that's stored in Paducah, Kentucky, to power nuclear power plants. We don't have that yet at Calvercliffs, but we would love to have it. And if we did have that, the waste that's in Paducah, Kentucky today would power the United States of America for 300 years. And so if you want to know why I get a little edgy when I hear the proselytizing about climate change, not from you, because I know that you're passionate about this, but from others, certainly the advocates, it's because there really isn't an interest in solving the problem unless to solve the problem. And in Calvercliffs, we have willing residents who would welcome another modernized power plant, which is unusual. The other thing is the bill is very prescriptive. And it just seems we see this again and again. It's got to be solar, and it's got to be electric cars. Not other kinds of technologies, but just those technologies. and all other technologies are excluded, and those technologies are always technologies such as electric cars, electric batteries, and solar panels are always in Maryland subsidized. And the thing is, with solar panels really aren't renewable because in 20 to 25 years, they end up in landfills. But nuclear power, with nuclear power, we knew many years ago that at some point we'd be able to use that nuclear waste once technology caught up. And that's where we are today. So now it's a zero waste, zero carbon energy. Incredible. And I just think that it's a bit disingenuous with this particular bill, the so-called Climate Solutions Now Act of 2021, to say that we are in a climate emergency and not include as a central solution to that problem nuclear power. And so, Madam Speaker, I have no choice but to vote against this bill because in Calvert County, we are already producing the solution. Already. And we're willing to produce even more solutions. But we're constantly told the only way to fix the problem is to cover all of Calvert County up with solar panels, something that we categorically reject. But for all those reasons, Madam Speaker, I will be voting no on this bill.
Committee Chair.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and I want to thank everybody who's participated in the debate on this bill. And again, I want to especially thank the Vice Chair of the committee who has really put in a lot of time paying attention to hard, verified facts in putting together an extremely workable bill. I want to remind folks that this is a bill that is supported by Secretary of the Environment, Ben Grumbles. It is supported by the Chesapeake Climate Action Network, the League of Conservation Voters, and the Sierra Club, the usual suspects. It's supported by the Black Caucus, which I'm very, very gratified to have because we do acknowledge the extreme importance of environmental justice in the work that we do. But I just want to make 2 points. First of all, I do have to address nuclear because unlike a lot of environmentalists, I'm not anti-nuclear. The problem with nuclear is that it's expensive. And if you go to the cost tables of the Department of Energy or the Lazard Inc., you will find that the cheapest forms of non-carbon energy are wind and solar, and they're even cheaper in many but not in all circumstances, cheaper even than fossil fuels. But I want to address an issue in conclusion that has been brought up on this bill and on other bills, and what can little Maryland do to lead the nation and the world? Well, a lot, actually. We've been leaders in energy and clean energy and in cleaning up the Chesapeake Bay for decades and decades, and only now are other people following us. But let me, Madam Speaker, draw an analogy with another little example of little Maryland leading the nation. If you look at that picture of that guy up there, my second speaker, he was a chair of my committee, Economic Matters, Cass Taylor. He used to call himself a conservative Democrat hillbilly. He passed the first law in the United States of America to get rid of pre-existing condition limitations for small businesses. He was supported by a conservative Democrat from the shore, that guy, my first speaker, Clay Mitchell. And what happened? Well, ironically, by the way, at first our bill wasn't seen as the most progressive. Other states, like New York, had more progressive legislation, but after 3 years when their market collapsed, they copied his bill, and more states copied his bill, our bill, and eventually the Kassebaum-Kennedy Act copied that whole concept at the federal level. So yeah, small little Maryland can lead the entire nation. In fact, in so many cases we have, and I hope Cass is on the internet listening because I know he'll appreciate the fact that we're using him as an example of how Maryland leads, and we will lead again. And this bill is an example of Maryland doing that. I would ask everyone to vote green.
Okay. Is there any further debate? Hearing none.
Madam Speaker.
Gentleman from Western Maryland.
I'd just like to make a comment that I certainly do not believe that nuclear is too expensive. You know, nuclear costs have skyrocketed despite the declining fuel costs that are because of, just as my good friend from Calvert said, the criminalization of nuclear. If nuclear was decriminalized and held to the same safety standards as other forms of energy, it would likely be one of the cheapest forms of energy to date. Thank you.
Is there any further debate? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker?
Can I explain my? Madam Speaker.
Gentlelady from Baltimore City to explain your vote.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and if my colleagues will indulge me for 2 quick minutes, I just want to celebrate something in this bill that hasn't been mentioned thoroughly, and that's going to have huge and immediate positive impacts on all of our constituents, and that is that we are going to plant 5 million trees in this state under this legislation. That is going to have immediate public health benefits and reduce public health costs for our residents. It's going to have a remarkable impact on our homes and the value of our homes, and even on crime. There are numerous studies done in Maryland showing the direct correlation between decreased crime and increased trees. So I'm thrilled to go home and tell my children that we're going to plant 5 million trees over the next 10 years in Maryland, and I salute the sponsor of this bill. Thank you.
Okay. Clerk will take the call. There being 95 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 414, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Will our chairs please come forward, please? Recognizing the majority leader.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I move to special order the remainder of third reading calendar of Senate Bills number 66 until later today.
All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. The calendar has been special order until later on today. We're going to be taking a break for you to get lunch, something to eat, emphasizing eating. We will come back at 3:15, and if everybody comes back in time, we can get started on time, okay? Please. That ends the work at the desk. Quorum call before adjournment.
Madam Speaker?
Has everyone recorded their presence? The clerk will take the call. There being 131 members present, the House is still in session, recognizing the majority leader.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I move that the House stand recessed until Saturday, April